Go.
What's up, guys? So that was a little short video I made for Mony. I'm here with him. What's up, Mony? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mony, let's I guess we could talk about you for a little bit. Who are you and what is S-Tech?
I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude disguised as a dude playing a dude. No, you know, first of all, thanks for having me on. But yeah, I'm Money Sar, also known as Endless TM. I guess to answer your question about S-Tech, which is actually it's short for Speed Techniques USA. I'm co-owner of a small LLC with my buddy Nick, also known as Reckless Tortuga. Something we started a few years ago, kind of like, well, Nick and I, we go way back, like when we were young, just two dudes watching best motoring videos, just wanted to get on track, not really knowing much about it, but wanting to do it. But with that, there's a lot of things where you're like, well, I don't know exactly how to get into it, what's expected, or like a lot of times, just in the capitalist world we live in today, you kind of like just always be wanting to like cook your car up. But at the same time, it's like, that costs money, but also tracking does too. And so, we learned all those hard lessons of like, oh, absolutely wanting to hook up your car and spending all your money on your car. But then the more you spend money on your car, the less time you can spend on track time. And that's kind of what we try to instill in terms of for Speed Techniques is that you can focus more on your skill
Yeah.
than always hooking up your car. So what we do is, we promote getting out there, getting on track, coaching. Coaching is a big part.
Oh yeah.
But really just getting out there, driving what you have,
Yeah, all about that driver mod, right? I mean, that's in your screen name, endless DM. The DM means driver mod, right?
Yes, it does. It doesn't mean direct messages. It's not
Yeah. Oh, Percy's in the chat. He says, "You the goat." He says,
what's
"You
up, person?
get that driver side door." I know Percy's working on his 8th Gen 2, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He's done quite a bit to his car. It's really, really turning out to be quite amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing my S-Tech shirt here. Pretty good design, the new shirt that you guys came out with. So I'll send it. If everyone was watching wants one, there's I guess, follow you guys on S-Tech on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then send a DM, not the driver mod, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying that you have a lot of history with cars and tracking. I know a lot of people probably know you for your Integra back in the day, right? And all the times that you went to different tracks, and I'm trying to catch up. You guys, you said over 10 years, probably.
Well, I started tracking. Actually, Nick and we started tracking together early 2000s. We both had Integras. I had a 1998 Integra, and so did he. Back then, like, I don't know. It didn't seem like I don't even know if like a JDM whore was like a coined phrase yet, but we were like those guys that we just wanted everything JDM on our cars, and then we're like, well, aside from like doing this to our cars, we should be like these guys in best motoring, get on track. And so we found a way to get out there. Being in Southern California, it wasn't too hard because we had Street to Willow Springs. There was a ton of private track days that were going on all the time. So the original owner of Inline 4, he's actually, the first time I went to a track, I went with him. His name was Chris, and he had like a Civic hatchback, and I followed him to the track, and we tracked together. My first time was like in 2000, I think. And the guys that hosted it was called Digital Racer. There was a ton of different ones at the time. They're like do one day track days, and we just did a lot of that. I remember at the time there was another guy. His name was Tommy. He owned Speed Trials USA. He was hosting events all the time, and they're just one day track days, and it was really cheap. I think it's still fairly inexpensive now in Southern California because it's just so popular. I think he paid $100 for the whole day.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could get this
I
kind
had,
of prices these days, right?
yeah, no, no. And yeah, I had the Integra, all 98 spec type art out. Um, it was new Formula Red at the time, and then later on, I remember getting a pamphlet from Japan. It was like all in Japanese, and it had the new Honda Integra with the K20A in it, and it was just like it just talked about all the engineering they did with the motor. It had like one of the exploded views of it, and they had the side cut out of the motor, and it talked about how this the pistons were 86 millimeters, and so was the stroke. And it's just like, and it was all in Japanese. I couldn't understand it, but I worked with the lady who was Japanese, and I took it and I said, "Hey, can you translate this?" She's like, "I don't know anything about cars." I was like, "Just translate it how it is, and then I'll understand it." She was just reading. She's like, "I don't know what I'm reading, but this is what it means." And I was like instantly just in love with the K series. And it was funny because I had only had my car for like maybe 2 or 3 years, and I decided, yeah, I'm gonna K swap my car. This is like in 2002.
Oh man, one of the OGs for the K swap, huh?
Yeah, it was like this was the time where like Hasport made the mounts, but then there was like nothing else, right? Well, Hybrid did too. They had mounts too, but there was no off the shelf parts. You had to figure it out. And
Mm.
remember at the time, K20.org, there was like 50 of us on the forums and just sharing information. It was great. And so
Man,
if anybody knows me from that time period, it was my screen name was 98 Spec R on K20.org and as well as Honda Tech. But yeah, and I tracked that car for 15 years.
man, it's a forums, right? Back in the day, it was all about forums. And I know earlier I said 10 years, but you said 2000. I was like, oh man, that's only 10 years ago. Wait, no, it's not. It's like 24 years ago. The
Yeah,
time's been flying. I'm just like lost.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I hadn't been tracking the whole entire time. Like, was chasing my career, so I did take a hiatus. Um, there was about a 7 year gap in there. Um, I was doing my thing, and Nick was still doing his thing. He was doing Global Time Attack and Super Lap Battle that whole time. Um, up until recently, I mean, that's when actually you and I met when I came back from Japan, and
Yeah,
I
the
was
little
actually getting back
EK,
into
right?
it. Yeah, and so it was funny that car was also my car originally many years ago, and I sold it to a family member who then sold it to a friend who sold it to a family member, and then I came back and he was getting ready to sell it because he lives in Southern California. And people kept breaking into it.
Mm.
He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna sell it to someone so that I know it's gonna get stolen soon, but if I sell it to my buddy, he's gonna keep it in his garage." And I was like, "No, sell it back to me." Yeah, and then I bought it back, and that's when we met. I was still black, right, when we first met.
Yeah, yeah, those are the little
Yeah.
EK, black EK. And I remember the first time we met, he actually helped me roll my fenders live at the track. I was like,
Oh,
who's
nice.
this guy? He's like helping me out. I don't even know him. And, I'm nervous. It's my first time. I'm rubbing. I'm having these issues. And then he just like saved the day. I was like, man, this guy's cool, pretty cool. And then I met you through, I guess, the rest of the guys, like Adam and all them. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, that seems like so long ago, but that wasn't that long ago, right? It was like what,
Yeah.
4 years ago?
Yeah, like 2021, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about your FA5 now. And I have some older pictures of it. Let me pull them up. Back when it was blue.
Yeah, so I guess to get into the FE5, like I had the EJ6 first, and then I hooked that up, and then I ended up selling it to a guy in California, and I actually used the money that I got from that car to build the FA5. I had always liked that chassis, the 8th gen. And I was just like kind of dead set on getting one. And at the time, what we were looking at, like it was like pre-COVID, so like a lot of the prices were kind of, to me, were insane. And I just was searching day and night, and I found one all the way out in South Carolina. A guy was selling. It was a 2011, had 115,000 miles on it. And he had I guess it was like a rainy day and he lost control and he like kind of bent the core support on the car. And I was like, I'll buy it as is for $4,000. And he's like, okay, sold. And so I got it 2011 Dino Blue FA5.
How do you find these deals? You were just like, that's great. I also didn't know it had a damaged course support, you said, right? Like, and how much was that to fix it? Like, how bad was that?
Well, so actually, so initially he wanted 6,000. I was like, well, this seems pretty good in terms of the market price at the time. And so I went and looked at it, and I was looking at it, and before I made the 4.5 hour drive out there, I was like, is there anything wrong with it? He's like, no, it's perfect. All right. And so I was walking around the car, and I looked through like one of the vents on the front bumper. It didn't have the actual like black plastic cover, and so you could see through it. And I saw it was like the core support was bent. I'm like, dude, you didn't tell me this.
Oh.
He was like, oh, well, yeah, like I hit a curb and it bent that, but everything else is good. I'm like, oh man. And so I hit him with my offer, and he took it.
Oh man, that's good that you like checked it out beforehand. I would have been like, all right, done deal.
Yeah, but I saw it wasn't structural. I was like, oh, it's definitely easily repaired, but it still has to be repaired. And so it was a complete beater. Like the clear coat was, which is common with these cars, was like all messed up and everything, and it was the wrong color. I just absolutely did not like the color, but I figured, well, I got such a good deal on it, I'll just make it my own.
Yeah, and I think you did a great job, especially with the roof, the sunroof delete. How did you go? How did you do that? I was like, that's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, so I stared at the car, like after getting the car, stared at it for like I think 2 weeks straight, figuring it out. I was like, I've always hated sunroofs. I'm a Honda guy through and through, so like all the Type R's never came with sunroofs. They were always slick top, and it's weight at the worst part of the car, way up high. And I was looking at it, and the way the FA5 is built, it's actually like the A, B, and C pillars are all like more structural. So like the roof panel is actually not structural at all. It's just a panel. So I just got the courage together, because there's like no one's documented this thing like to do it, but there's people who've done it. I'm not the first person to ever do it. And I was like, you know what? I can cut it off and do it. So I went to the junkyard one day and in the rain and cut the roof off of a car in the junkyard, and then figured it out. It was actually not too bad. I've actually helped a couple people now do their cars as well on the 8th gen.
Yeah, were you able to determine the weight reduction that you got out of that?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's 29 pounds off the top of the car.
Oof. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, at the top too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 29 pounds off the top is, I mean, 29 pounds is good, but 29 pounds off the top is even better than 29 pounds like down below.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you almost feel like the car actually feels different after you do it in a good way.
Yeah, does it also feel stiffer, you said, or just in general, it just also felt better?
Yeah, it does. It feels more nimble because now it's a solid panel. But then now also the way I did it was I didn't do the tack welds. I bonded it. So now instead of having like where the spot welds are, it's only connected to the chassis at different points. You bond the entire length of the panel, so it's actually it's more rigid.
I don't have friends.
Oh yeah.
I got family.
Oh sorry, there's someone just subscribed, so I don't know if you heard that notification, but
yeah, I did.
But yeah, it makes it look a lot cleaner, and like you said, like the whole surface area, right, is bonded together, so it's not just these points where you get flex and all that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Shout out to my cousin Pinner. He helped me tremendously in that project. He actually came over, helped me get the roof off. The glass, you got to cut the glass out and everything. Shoot, I mean, just the project in general. He's been there helping me a lot. Oh, he was there helping me a lot.
And then he helped you paint it and all that. Man, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, man. So there's a deal with when Pinner and I get together late nights and we talking cars and things we want to do. We kind of get crazy. We kind of go overboard sometimes, I would say. And then we got in our heads and we're like, hey, man, we're going to convert the color of this car from blue to championship white. We're going to paint every inch of it. And I had mentioned to him, hey, we'll just like spray the inside a little bit. And he's like, no, let's do the whole thing. And like one thing led to another. And one day I decided to pull the whole wire harness out of the interior. I pulled the whole body harness out. And when he saw it, he was like, yeah, we're painting the entire car. Because I took everything out of it. It was just the chassis.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I left the car with him one weekend, and so the plan was we were going to be working on the car together all the time, but it was one of the weekends fell on the weekend where I was going to compete. I was co-driving with Nick in Super Lap Battle. And I was like, hey, dude, I'm going to bring the car to your house. And when I get back, we'll do everything. And then that weekend when I was at Super Lap Battle, he just painted the entire car, like the inside and out.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And how many days?
What's that?
How many days was it? One day? He just knocked it on one day? This guy's a beast.
Yeah. I think he knocked it out in 2 days. It might have been actually Adam might know better. He was there. He happened to go by. But the plan was that he was just he was gonna do the sealer, and then when I came back, we were gonna, get the car prepped and then, paint it the actual color. But he was like, I guess he was on a roll and just knocked it out. And I came back and the whole car was championship white.
Man, it's like one of those things you like get into it and you're like, oh, I'll do a little bit more and I'll do a little more, and by the time you notice you're done.
Yeah. No, it was there was a lot of sweat equity put in the car, labor love, and it showed those. I remember a couple guys I told like that the car was originally blue, and they're like, "There's no way. There's absolutely no way," because like we broke it down to where we took everything off, so there was no overspray, no taping off anything. It was just truly converted to championship white.
And when I looked at the car, there was like no signs that it was blue. Like everything, engine bay, right, door jambs, everything.
Well, so that was the thing. So the engine bay, we had to do later. But so Pinner was able to like paint around the outside. So when you open the hood, it still looked like it came white, but behind the engine and everything was still blue. Only because at the time there was no way to like move the car around. If we took the engine out, it would have made it even like that much harder. And so the thing is, like, you look at a car, you take a car, you park it in your garage, but when you start taking it apart, it starts to take up a ton of space. Like the stuff that comes out of a car takes up the space of like 3 cars.
Oh yeah, because you can't just put it on top of each other. You can't put like
no, because you're trying to like not mess things up and stuff like that, and so we had to do the engine bay later, and the timing just never lined up. From beginning to end, I only owned the car for like a couple months, and then we had converted it completely to what it was. And then I only owned it for about a year, until this past Roebling.
Mm.
But before then, I had a chance to pull the engine out, and then Printer's schedule of mine lined up, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna pull the engine out. Um, what do you think about getting that bay done?" And he's like, "They left," and then so I pulled everything out of the bay, like all the wires and everything.
It was
And
like, say no more. Let's just do it.
yeah, yeah. He's like, "I'll bring my stuff." He's like, and it's funny because he has his off time's precious to him, and I understand that. And so I try to like preserve that, right? And so when it's like whatever works for you, then I'll make it work. And but he had like things going on too, family stuff, where he's like going out because they spend a lot of time together. And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna come to your house. I'll drop off all of this stuff, like the air compressor and his paint stuff and everything, and then I'll take a look at what you've done because I was supposed to prep the bay and sand it down by like scuff it up myself." And he's like, "Okay, based on what you do, then we'll tape off some stuff and I'll come back." And so it was like just a weekend. We only had like 2 days to get it done, and in that moment again, he and I, when we get together, he's like, "Let's paint the wheel wells too."
Oh,
I'm like, all right.
mad
And
science.
so yeah, so okay, we're gonna paint the whole front of the car, like the engine bay and the wheel wells and everything. And it came out great. I mean, we painted my garage.
Man, that's
And
insane that he brought it to you, right? He brought the booth to you. Usually it's you bringing the car to him with all the parts, but
yeah,
man, he
yeah,
just came to
no, he
you.
came.
Yeah,
Yeah, he sure did. Sure did. It looked great.
man, that's
All came
awesome.
together.
Now about the, I guess what other mods did you have to your car?
Oh yeah, sorry, I digress because it's like a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
So yeah, so the first thing I did was the roof because I was absolutely I refused to have a sunroof. And then at the time, and even now, I was so the goal was to like I mentioned earlier, like, yeah, I'm a JDM guy. I'm like, yo, I got to do like the FD2 parts, like the
mm,
conversion. I want the FD2 front end. And now it's not like the old golden era cars. Most of us, oh, you do the JDM front end, like for the Integra, the JDM front end, you're good. So, but the FD2, the front and the rear is different. And they changed the car. Basically, it's like different car. And so, like okay, I need to get the FD2 front end, which is like the fenders, hood, headlights, bumper, all it's different. And then the rear end has to be converted too, because it's also different. The trunk, the tail lights, the rear bumper. Um, and so, but at the time, and like I said, even now, it's those parts are rare
mm.
because they're just in high demand. Um, I think Honda still makes a lot of those parts, so there's that you can still get them, but they're hard to get because they're just always sold out.
Ah,
Um, and I was just searching and searching and day and night, and it was so I'm like new to the eighth gen at the time. But I would say I'm still kind of new to it even now because I only owned it for a year.
mm.
I uh trying to figure out where to get these parts, couldn't find them, and I'm like, I even went there. I was like, maybe I'll just get like the rep parts. I'll just get replica parts. And people who are close to me know that like even when I built my JDM Integra Type R, they're like, dude, you never put rep parts on your car. Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, oh, what do I do? And like by chance, you know how Instagram, based off what you're searching, it recommends more things to you that are like kind of similar to what those things are that you're looking at.
It's always listening, right?
Yeah, yeah, Big Brother's always listening. And I seen this listing for like side skirts, FD2 side skirts, and it's by this guy on IG, Zaf Japan. And at the time, I don't know who this guy is, right? And I'm like, and it's kind of new to me too. Like honestly, the whole coming back and starting the driving again, like IG's new to me. Like I'm like, man, I don't want to try to buy something from somebody and get ripped off. And so I hit up this guy, because he had like the listing in IG was like a set of side skirts. And I'm like, oh, I need those. And they're like OEM, brand new OEM, and they're already painted championship white.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I hit him up and I'm like, I'll take them. He's like, cool. And he sends them out to me, and I get them like 2 days. I'm like, wow, this guy, I'm here in Florida, and he sends them to me from California, and I get them in 2 days.
2 days, and it's already painted.
Yeah, they were brand new in the Honda boxes and everything.
Man.
And so I hit him back, and so then I start following him, because before that I wasn't following him. I start following him, like, oh wow, he actually, and I look back and I was like, wow, he's like, he gets FD2 parts. So I hit him up on the DM, and I'm like, hey man, I'm actually trying to convert my car. I'm trying to get all these parts for my car. So I mean, what do you got? Or like, so I asked him, like, do you have this? And he's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, what about this? And he's like, yeah, I do. I was like, well, what do you have? And he lists off a bunch of things. And I'm like, I'll take all of it.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, I'll take it all.
Just add all to cart, right?
Yeah, I think he had everything I needed except for the fenders.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like the front bumper, the wing, the rear bumper. I mean, and it was all brand new. Like, the grills. So like, you don't know what you need until you start going. It's like, oh wow, even the fender brackets are different. But luckily he was cool. He's like, yeah, you're gonna need the fender brackets. You're gonna need the headlight brackets. They're different. He's like, you're gonna need all this stuff. I was like, oh, what about the bumper support? He's like, no, that's fine. You can cut it. Like, I'm a complete noob right at the time, and it's like, well, I would say I'm probably still a complete noob. But he's like, yeah, all this. I was like, I'll take it all. And so I was like, cool. And I remember I pay him an arm and a leg. I give him my next born's name and everything.
Yeah.
And I get the box. It's just this big box. It's the size of a refrigerator. Gets delivered to my house, and like 4 days later.
Oh man. So you miss your kidneys now, right? You sold both.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, so I had this stuff, but I wasn't sharing it with anybody. I was kind of like low key, kind of like, oh, whatever. Big old box sitting in my living room because it wouldn't fit in my garage. Just because I have so much crap in there. And so then now it's like I'm trying to work it with Pinner. Like, dude, I'm ready just to start pulling everything apart, and we'll just paint everything at once. But I need fenders, and then I end up ordering some fenders from Japan, which took some time to make. I got some M&M fenders, and but that was actually a good. I had a good experience with that too, because they made them in like 3 months and mailed them to me.
Oh man. This guy that you bought everything other than fenders, right? Was he like in the middle of converting his, or he resells parts? What was the background?
He's actually like the FD2 plug.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was totally by accident, because again, like I was all new to it. I'm not even part of any like 8th gen forums or anything like that. Just kind of like discovery learning, and then I just, again, IG recommended to me, because basically I was looking at all these FD2s, and just kind of found him that way. And he's been totally cool guy. If
That's crazy.
Anybody wants to look him up, it's Zaf Japan. His name's Cody. He's a totally cool dude.
And that's the algorithm works, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I guess. In this case, it was good. Yeah, yeah, got a lot of parts from him, and
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And as far as like, I guess, suspension work, you're pretty much, and like wheels and tires, yeah.
Yeah, so suspension. I had when I was building my EJ6, I had tried out some Fortunatos, and they worked really well for me. And the thing is too, like I said, during that time, it's like everything was kind of like either back ordered or hard to get. And I remember getting the Fortunatos for my EJ6, and it came fairly quickly. I'm like, okay, so I'll just get Fortunatos for the FA5 too. And so I got those. Their support is pretty legit. Like you contact them, they reply back to you real quickly. I told them what I was going to be using the car for, and they suggested some spring rates for me, and I was like, yeah, I think I'll try those out. We kind of went back and forth a little bit, and I was like, the first set of rates they sent me, I was like, oh, that seems kind of soft, but I'm gonna be like, well, you sacrifice ride comfort and for a little more track performance. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm gonna do that, and I think I've ended up with like a middle ground with like doing like 10K up front and 14K in the rear. I guess these cars like it a higher spring rate in the rear to get them to rotate.
Wow.
Yeah, so that combination worked out really well for me.
And you definitely drove the car hard.
Yeah. What's interesting too, it's because like unlike the Golden Era counterparts where they have like a double wishbone front rear, when you make like if you get harder bushings or anything like that, it makes the ride like it actually really truly affects your ride comfort. But with this McPherson strut, the front of the car is riding on the strut, so like you can change the bushings and make them harder and stuff like that, but your ride quality doesn't change much at all. Like it's still good.
So your strut still is effective, even though everything else around it is stiff.
Yeah. So the ride quality doesn't change much. That's why I kind of like the 8th gen so much. But yeah, so that was the suspension. I did the rigid collars. If anybody is ever thinking about doing that, should definitely do that because it keeps your alignment in check. Because the way the subframe bolts to the 8th gen, it's like 4 bolts, and that big old subframe's heavy and it can move because the holes are so wide. The rigid collars makes it so it doesn't slide.
And you're running staggered or square. I know you had 2 setups with your tires, right? And your wheels.
Yeah. So when the car was blue, I was running square. It was good, but that's what I knew. So like you kind of change the way you drive based on what your car is doing. It was good for me, but I'm like trying to always look for to be quicker, and I did feel like the car pushed quite a bit. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try running staggered because I noticed like those cars in Japan, like they all ran some type of staggered setup for the 8th gen. So like, let me try it out. And when I did, it was, I'll be honest, at first I was like, damn, what did I do? This is crazy. It felt crazy at first.
I think you said you felt like you broke your car, right?
Yeah, I did. I was like, oh my goodness, I have to relearn this. I was driving it scared. I remember, and it was funny because I did the staggered setup untested. Just I did it, and I went to my first competition in the car, Global Time Attack at Royal Atlanta. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like my first session was slower than when the car was blue, like before I did all this work, like took 100 pounds out of the car and all this. I was like, man, like slower. But it was because I was driving scared. And then I started getting used to it. I'm like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. Like it was great. And I just kept getting faster and faster throughout the day, getting more and more used to it. And then after that event, it was like I couldn't see myself having it any other way.
Never going back.
And so I drove like those staggered setups for the year that I had the car. It was great. However, running staggered does have its compromises. It's more expensive because you go through tires. You can't rotate them.
Would you say that's one of the main cons, or any other major cons, I guess?
Yeah, if you track a lot. So like that car when I had it, I tracked it once a month the entire time I owned it. So I went to at least one event every month. There were months that I might have skipped a month, but then I went to like 2 in a month. So the average amount of track weekends the car saw was like 1 track weekend a month. And so that's like a lot of tracking. And I was going through tires when I was running stagger. I was going through at least the front tires. I would go through a set of front tires every 3 events, sometimes only two weekends, and I had to get new front tires. I couldn't rotate them.
Yeah, man, that's a big hit to the wallet.
Oh yeah. And then actually, so for rolling, I decided this last pass rolling, I was like, I'm going back to square. And so for that event, I actually ran the square setup.
I don't have friends.
Oh, we got
I
another
got
subscriber.
family.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, so then you pretty much running stock power other than a tune and some bolt-ons, right?
Yeah, so I never officially got the car tuned. I just kind of road tune my stuff. I'm not no pro tuner. I understand how it works. But without it, not like tuned on the dyno, so you can't really tune for power, just for efficiency. Which when you're doing that, when you're tuning for efficiency, you do get some power. But if you're not messing with the timing, then you're not really doing much above what you're getting. The motor, I just regular bolt-ons like everybody else that has an 8th gen intake header exhaust. I had hybrid 3.5-inch intake, cold air intake, which is popular. The Skunk 2 Alpha header with full race 3-inch exhaust, which is a really good combination for these cars. Otherwise, the motor was just stock.
Yeah, that exhaust sounded good. I didn't realize it was 3 inches, and it sounded like pretty quiet. It's really pretty surprised.
So that one is supposedly the quietest 3-inch exhaust on the market. And I liked it for that reason. It's a little heavier, but it's a little more civil, so it's not so bad.
Wow. And with the bolt-ons, you said the tune was pretty much for reliability and just to get the most out of your mods, right?
Yeah, that so for TT, you have to dyno the car, do 3 pulls. It did an average 200 horsepower. So if anybody wants to know how much power that car made, it was 200 horses with 143 foot-pounds of torque, which isn't a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's the weight, and you ended up in which class in TT?
TT5.
Oh, TT5.
Oh. Yeah.
Pretty competitive field.
Yeah, it's a really good field, actually. There's like some really, really fast guys. Honestly, I don't think that I've ever, prior to myself, seen anybody on podium or much guys that track their front wheel drive cars, which was pretty cool for me to be out there with
Yeah. You're speaking of podium. You were on the podium on Homestead and Roebling.
Yeah. So yeah, you were there for Homestead. It was good. But yeah, Roebling, we had about, I think, 7 competitors for TT5, which is a pretty decent showing. I ended up placing second both Saturday and Sunday, which was really cool. And then now they started the new categories called Time Trial Target. It's basically your what is it? Consistency. So like the closer your times are, it's how they score you. I end up placing second on Sunday as well for TT.
Yeah, so how does that TTT work? And I guess they take your best times, like 3 average or something, or some number of average, and then.
Well, they say it's your top 3 for over 3 sessions, but I think it's like 4. And it's your fastest times over the 3 sessions, and then the deviation. So the people who have the smallest deviation are the ones that win, right?
That's a pretty interesting class, or not class, but award, because the whole field is pretty much entered, not just your TT, right?
Yeah.
So you always make contingency.
Participants. Yeah. Shout out to John Baker. He came in first both days. Super consistent guy. I think his car is running a TT4 Mustang. But yeah, it's cool because then, for the guys that might not be winning in their class, but they're super consistent, um, they can claim contingencies through that as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So talk about your day at Roebling. How was your weekend? I know you said you were second both days. How were the sessions? How all the way up to leading to the last session?
Oh man, like I mentioned this before. Um, this spring break at Roebling was absolutely like one of my most memorable track weekends. Not just because, like, I mean, I always have a great time anytime I go to the track. I just because I love it. But this one was especially memorable because, for one, all you guys, you included, top end guys. I've been watching you guys come up through the ranks at DE, and at this one, most of you guys were all, in three or four, and you know how Southeast runs combined sessions, and it was like amazing or so awesome for you, for us to all be, running DE together in the same session. Like I had so much fun doing that, and then on top of that, just like the friends and family and the support that came out just to not even driving, but just to be out there with us doing our thing. I know between me and Nick, we were like giving uh, ride alongs to everyone we could. Anybody that wanted to go on a ride along, we were doing it. I know Nick was super busy that weekend doing check rides for people trying to level up and instructing. Myself, I was instructing. Should I? That was one of the highlights for me as well. That weekend was that my cousin Pinner, after being like not being able to track for so long and taking his hiatus and coming back and being able to coach him, that was great. It was just like the whole weekend was like an awesome vibe. The DE sessions were great. All the people that were in the sessions that we ran were mindful of each other. It's like just great. I mean, I'm thinking about it now and I'm smiling, just thinking about how we're like lining up in the staging and just going out there together.
Yeah, I think that was one of my most memorable track days, both Saturday and the beginning of Sunday. But it was one of my first times combined 3 and 4, and just
Yeah.
driving out there with you guys. You guys pushed me, and I ended up making a PB the next session because I was all the things I learned, and it's pretty cool. Thinking of my past instructors, and like you always instructed me, and Nick's always driving my car for me, and giving me pointers, and it was just a great time. We were all driving close. We trusted each other, right? And like you said, it's pretty cool to it was Penner's debut almost, right? And he was your student, and all around good vibes, and I had a great time as well.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, my girl came out. I haven't given her a ride along since I had my Integra. It's been like 20 years, and it was cool. I was able to take her out in the FA5. We got to see, or got to experience that. So it's just all around good. And then TT was great. Um, I mean, those guys. Honestly, I think NASA just is really good with time trials, and the guys that are out there competing, they're just great. Um, Pushing each other.
Yeah, I'm glad to be part of NASA. I know a lot of people will say SCCA is also pretty competitive, but I'm glad you guys roped me into NASA. Really good organization, right?
Really good. Had a great weekend. Like I said, it was like bittersweet, all that stuff. I often think about it. I'm like, oh, everybody had such a great weekend. It was kind of overshadowed what happened at the end. But I tend to only focus on all the stuff that happened, at the beginning of the weekend, or, the meat of it. Um, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think even though it was unfortunate at the end, I think that we could remember the rest of the weekend we can't, like you said, you can't make it eclipse the rest of the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So I know on Sunday, leading up to the last session, what I remember, I could talk about what I recalled, and then we could walk through what you recalled. But I remember, we were packing up, and I believe you came back to the paddock or where we were parked, and you dropped off. I believe someone was riding with you. You did another ride along, and then you immediately went out for your TT session. I was like, man, this guy, he's a beast. You going out there trying to, I guess get as much seat time as you can, right? And I remember hearing, just hanging out, and then suddenly someone's like, "Oh, there's a red flag," and we saw a couple cars blow the red flag, and we are kind of like making fun of them, like, "Oh, pay more attention" or whatever. And then we realized this is TT, and there's no drills, so we're like, "Okay, it's a real incident. Let's find Mony. Is Mony okay?" Right? We obviously the cars are stopped. There's no cars going around, so we all jumped on our scooters and we drove around to try to find where you were parked. And then that's when I believe you called Nick, and I think Ian spotted you, and he said, "It's Mony." He texted everybody, or he came up to me and said, "It's Mony, and it looks bad." After that, we all went back to our parking spots, and we let everyone know where you were, and we all ran over to look over. And what I saw when I first arrived was, oh man, I don't have a picture. Oh, I do. Was this? We saw you were actually out of your car, and you were just standing there, and we saw, what I saw, the front of your car, and the back was a little bit damaged, but we couldn't see the full damage because it was backed into the trees. And then we were talking about how, how did this happen, and we were glad that you were okay. It was just all around weird. I think leading up to that point, there were a couple other incidents, and it was just kind of, last session of the weekend, kind of weird vibes. And yeah, when they towed your car away, we didn't realize how much the damage was. And let me see if I can pull up a picture of that. So here's your car. Tell us what happened when you opened your eyes and you came to. Like, what was going through your mind, and what do you remember?
Well, actually, I'll go back to what you mentioned. Like, so we had just finished that session that we all went out, and I was actually driving your 9th gen, and Nick was driving my car, and we had all just came back, and I'm like, oh, my last session's up for TT, and I actually had before then I was like, oh, you know what, the times are pretty solid at this point. The times are what they are. I don't even really need to run another session. But I'm like, you know what? I feel good. The car's been great all weekend. I'm gonna take it out one last time. And so I hopped out of your car, hopped in mine, and went out. And I actually made it out late. They already had went around the first lap already, and I just joined on. And the session it went really well. Like the car felt great, but there was this crosswind at turn 9. Anybody who has been to Roebling knows what this crosswind is. As you're rounding turn 9, it's the fastest turn at the track, and the wind comes across because there's that concrete wall. You're coming across, and your windows are open, and so your car kind of like floats, and it settles back down. It floats again. It settles back down. But it's manageable. Like, people know what it is, and it was doing that. But it wasn't anything that was out of the ordinary for me. So I think I was nearly almost done with the session. It was like maybe there couldn't have been like more than another 1 or 2 laps left. To come back around turn 9, and I was so like typically if you're going fast through there, you're like matted. And the way my gearing is in my car, I'd always have to kind of like short shift to fifth gear going in because I'd run out of gear. So I just I catch the next gear and just mat it. So on that time around, I come across, and car lifts a little from the wind, gets settles back down, and mid turn, I get some snap oversteer at 9, and the back end comes out. I stay in the gas initially, but then my rear tires touch the grass, and then the car just whips out into the grass. Then like once you hit the grass, you're kind of just along for the ride. So the car like whips out, and then it goes backwards, but like all the momentum gets transferred that way, right? So like it kind of slingshots the car out going backwards, and it literally was going backwards straight back. It felt like slow motion to me. So I'm like, there's nothing I can do, so I guess I just gotta brace for whatever I'm gonna hit going backward. And I remember the thud. And I guess that thud that I heard was the back of my car hitting the tree square, like I hit a tree square.
Like right in the middle.
Right in the middle of the back bumper, and then the tree ended up in the back seat of the car. It went through. It traveled maybe 4 feet into the car. So from the thud all the way to the time that I was, I guess at some point they put me in the because all the crash bar record shows up, the ambulance and everything. They put me in a golf cart.
Mm-hmm.
So there's from the thud to the time I end up in the golf cart, I have no recollection of any of that, aside from what I've like seen in video or someone told me, or like I get kind of frames. Because from the time the thud happened and into a point where I remember when I guess started realizing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the word's consciousness, but I mean I guess I was conscious because right, you said I was walking around there and stuff, but when I was sitting in the golf cart, I remember when I finally was like, okay, I knew where I was awake. I was looking down at my shoes, and I remember when I came to, I'm like, why am I wearing racing shoes? And I'm like, I have a race suit on. And there was a lady sitting next to me in the golf cart, and I was like, excuse me, if you don't mind me asking, what is your name? And she's like, I can't remember it now, but it started with an S. It was like Sherry or Susan or something. And I said, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I have no idea how I got to where I am right now.
Mm.
And she's like, oh, that's not good. She's like, do you know where you are? And I like looked around, and where I was, that golf cart over there in the trees, and I look over, I didn't know where I was. I had no idea. I was like, no, I don't. Oh, she's like, oh, let's get you in the ambulance then. So they brought me over to the ambulance, and the other paramedic was like, hey, we're going to ask you a couple questions, see how you're doing. And I was like, okay. And he's like, oh, we're going to ask you a couple easy questions. He's like, what's your name? I answered that. What's your birthday? I answered that. He's like, okay, so we're going to ask you some harder questions. And he's like, who's the president? Or no, he said, actually, he asked me too, like where I was. I don't know. And he's like, who's the president of the United States? I was like, oh, I know that. It's Donald Trump. He's like, no, it's Joe Biden. And I was like, I didn't say anything to him, but in my mind, I'm like, who the hell is Joe Biden?
Oh, man.
And then he's like, okay, so what day of the week is it? And I was like, it's Friday. And he's like, it's Sunday.
Mm.
I was like, oh. And he's like, all right, then they put the little neck thing on me, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna take you to the emergency room to see what's going on. And yeah, so like my head didn't strike anything in the car. It's just my brain hitting the back of my skull in the sudden stop from hitting the tree, and that caused me to get a concussion. And they called it post uh, trauma amnesia or something like that.
Man, that's insane. Like, what was going through your head when you were like, wait, what are these? I'm wrong? What answers are wrong? Were you surprised?
You know what's funny? No, I didn't see him as surprised. I mean, you know what? Somewhere in between that, all the questions, and then I remember you guys coming to the ambulance, and the door was open, and I think I already had the thing on my neck,
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember looking at your faces, and you guys just all looked so worried, and I felt terrible that you guys were worried, and I'm like, I'm okay, I'm fine. I just can't remember what year this is. And
You're already looking out for other people. You're already worried that we're worried.
yeah, and it's funny. Somebody told me later, like, "Oh yeah, the car burst into flames. It was on fire, and they're yelling across the track for me to get out."
Do you remember the fire
And
at all, or?
so I do have like a flash memory of like looking backwards and seeing the flames rolling up um, in the cabin, but like not like a normal type of memory. Like I remember kind of like looking back and seeing the flames and like, oh, I gotta get out. And I remember feeling for my seatbelt and unbuckling it. And somehow I got the door open because like the car crunched in on itself. I'm surprised the door opened. And I do vaguely remember like getting out of the car and like trying to get away from the car and like falling down because it's just like my body was wobbly. But when I fell down in the grass, I'm like thinking like, what if the car explodes? I need to get further away from it. So like get up and try to run some more, and I fall right back down again.
Oh man.
I just didn't have any balance. I do remember that, but that didn't come back to me till later. But it was like frames, kind of like the way they portray them in movies, where you have like moments of clarity. So I remember the frame, the scene of like the fire rolling into the cabin, and then the scene of me stumbling away from my car twice, and then just being in that golf cart. I did get a chance to. I had a camera on my head. It flung off. It broke the mount when I impacted. But what it seems is, as soon as the wreck happened, I almost instantly get out of the car. So I wasn't in there for too long.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah.
I know people were saying they were yelling at you to get out, but it seemed like you were already on the way out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can't see anything, you just can hear. And you can hear the crackle of fire. But it's like 20 seconds from the impact to the crackling of the fire and then the door opening and me stumbling out. But I don't remember any of that.
You're just in autopilot at that point time.
Yeah, I was in what's that called when you boot in safe mode? I was booted in safe mode.
Just survival, right?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was you or someone showed me a video of me standing there talking to the paramedic holding my my helmet. I don't recall any of that.
Yeah, Ian was recording that, and he was saying like, "Oh yeah, Mony looked fine," but then you started not remembering. That's insane.
Yeah, so that's what ended up earning me a trip to the emergency room because I just didn't know anything. And yeah, I did end up getting diagnosed with head trauma, and I spoke with a slurred speech for about a week, and I had trouble finishing sentences.
I didn't realize that part of it. For a week, you said?
Yeah. It's funny because so like, you know, it happened on Sunday. I went to work Monday, and I was at work, and we have a doc there. I went to go see the doc. Okay, you know, I was in a car accident yesterday, and so he started talking to me, and he's asking me questions, and he's like, you know, I'm gonna start writing some stuff down for you so you can remember. I'm like, that's odd, and but he in that exchange with him, he was like, this guy ain't right, because I had like trouble. I was like slurring speech. I had trouble finishing sentences, and like just easy words I couldn't remember. And then it was funny because he's like, oh, do you still need me to schedule you your dental appointment? I was like, dental? He's like, yeah, the first thing you said when you came in here, you said you needed a dental appointment. I was like, no, I didn't say that. He's like, yes, you did. He's like, he's like, how'd you get to work today? I said, I drove. He's like, do you have someone who could come pick you up?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that happened. And you're that's pretty nuts that you went back to work on Monday. But I guess they said no.
Yeah. So he sent me to go see my primary care manager, and they did some tests, and they're like, oh yeah, you have a concussion, and you should probably chill out for a couple of days.
Yeah, I remember looking, like you said earlier, looking to the back of the hospital van, and you were sitting there, and we were all worried. And then I remembered, like, oh, you don't remember the president until, you know, like Donald Trump. And I was like, do you even remember me? Like, because we met after that, right? So I was like, I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, maybe Mony doesn't even know who I am.
No, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. I had contacted Nick, so like one of the weirdest parts, like it felt like an out of body experience, because when I'm riding in the back of the
Ambulance, yeah.
the ambulance, I started looking through my phone, and like I had 2 text strings to 2 people, and I had no recollection of sending those texts. There were 2 people. I sent 4 texts to each, and they replied back to me, and I replied back to them. And there's like 2 text strings I had no recollection of at all. It felt like I was like, who did all this? Yeah, it was crazy. One was to Nick, and the other one was to my girl. I'm like, wow, that felt weird. But yeah.
Man, I can't imagine what that felt like. You know, that's insane.
Yeah.
But you're feeling better now. It's how long ago was it? About a month, maybe? You're a little bit.
A month now. It was a month yesterday.
Oh wow, yeah. So it is a month anniversary, I guess. That's nuts. I didn't realize that was.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you made it and you're able to talk about it, right? The car, it sacrificed itself to save you, right? So.
Yeah, I can only imagine if we went front, head first into the tree. You know, it was pretty gnarly. I haven't checked the data to see what the speed was, but usually, come around that corner, mid-turn, I'm about like 100 miles an hour. They say once you hit grass, you kind of speed up. Who knows? Yeah, it was enough to. I mean, like I said, the tree was in the back seat. It pushed everything in. Like all the roof was wrapped around it and everything. So, yeah, my seat back broke and everything. Like, so it looked like when you look at the driver's seat, it looks like it's reclined, but it's not, because it's just broke from my body continuing to try to travel backwards.
Yeah, I remember we were trying to move it to look for the camera, and it was just completely broken. It was just on its back.
Yeah.
And Nick says Honda built a safe car, and they're glad they did, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I couldn't thank you guys enough because I know for one, we had been tracking all weekend. We know what it's like. The end of a track weekend, you're tired, and then now you guys had to deal with like getting all my stuff packed and your stuff packed and going all the way to Savannah, getting me from the emergency room, coming back, and then figuring out how to get the car on the trailer because the two back tires aren't even touching the ground anymore. And
Yeah, I
then
mean,
driving home.
it wasn't a big deal to us. I mean, like we were there. We felt bad, that you were hurt, your car was hurt, and it's just we weren't really thinking too much about ourselves, or we just wanted to help you out, right? So
Yeah, we got the car home, and then we had to just kind of put it in my backyard, and then Nick actually made plans. He came back up and had some friends come help get it into my garage because if you remember, it was on his trailer. He had to take the trail home, and we got it in my garage, and then I started the whole disassembly because I had to get it out of there. I remember Cade had reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, you want to be mindful of the fumes.
Mm.
There could be explosive fumes," and he was right because it stunk up my garage for the whole week that it was in there. So I had to make sure I aired out the garage every day.
Mm.
And so I took everything apart, and I did have a bunch of racers hit me up, TT guys, Honda Challenge guys, ask me for what happened, they're like, a lot of them are like, I refuse to believe that it was driver error, that you didn't, I refuse you like messed up. And I was taking the car apart, and I did find, so the driver's side rear camber arm, so it's an adjustable camber kit.
Mm-hmm.
The rear camber arm, the jam nut had backed all the way out.
Mm.
And so the rod end was loose. It was attached but loose.
Mm.
So the camera moving, and then I mentioned how that crosswind is coming across and the car floats up and then it lands back down. Kind of that rear camber moving could have been what caused the snap oversteer.
Mm.
So I would say initially that's probably the cause, most likely. But I feel like I always, you're always your worst critic. I feel like maybe I could have done something different. So the car went back around. It was going backwards. I stayed in it. Initially, I feel like had I just stayed in it, maybe it would have slowed the car down. I don't know, because once the car, it was all the way, traveling backwards, straight line. I don't know what else I could have done.
Oh, so you're saying you did both feet in, but if you were just flooring it backwards, you would have been.
Yeah, because so I stayed in it initially, and the car wasn't slowing down. And I even went both feet in, and the car was still sliding. I'm like, yeah, nothing's gonna work,
Wow.
Yeah,
slicks on wet grass, right?
Yeah, and it was like, okay, I'm just gonna brace for impact, and then that's what happened. I had Roy and oh shoot, his name is eluding me right now. Brendan, Roy and Brendan. Brendan is the director for TT for Southeast, and then Roy is the assistant director. They reached out to me, and they said, they're totally cool. They had offered to take a look at some of the data, see if there's anything that I could have done, help analyze it as well. So I'll probably send it to them.
Well, that's pretty nice of them, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the initial, because the car doesn't snap oversteer, but I think the initial cause was that loose camber arm. Yeah, I took it off the car and kept it, so I still have it, and I left it the way it is. It's still loose, and I'm probably gonna hang it on a damn wall.
Oh yeah, keep it as a trophy, right?
Yeah, and But yeah, I would say that's the initial. But I feel like you can always improve on yourself and learn from these things and think in situations like that. What could have I done different to maybe either lessen the blow or mitigate it altogether?
Mm. Look at you looking at the analytical side, already trying to figure out what you could have done, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of these these freak accidents happen, but you're already thinking about how to
Yeah, I mean
improve
the
out of
video.
it, right?
Yeah, I mean the video doesn't give you much. It's my helmet cam, so you see first person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Coming across nine, doing it, you can hear the tires squealing like they always do, the front ones, and then the back whips. But then, like when it whips, it just goes straight back.
Mm.
So it's like I'm like, oh man, what could I have done? Maybe turned the wheel or something. But I could have risked just still sliding all the way across the field and hitting the tree
Side or
in
yeah.
the side door or something. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think the spectators when we first walked up, they were saying, "Oh, a tire blew because the way the car just spun instantly."
Yeah.
People were saying that it was a tire issue, but when you
No,
looked at
I
it, it
thought
wasn't.
I initially, well, yeah, I initially thought so too. Just the way it just did what it did.
Hmm.
I was sure, and I was like, man, I think the tire came apart. When I got it home, and I finally got in there and started taking it apart. Um, uh, it's hard to tell because a lot of the stuff was just all melted in terms of like rubber and everything. Um, but the rear suspension, because the car like wrapped around the tree through the center, everything else like suspension, everything was undamaged.
Mm.
Um, because it's just bolted to the chassis, it's just like wrapped around, and so it's undamaged and everything was like intact. And sure enough, when I got the wheel off, um, I pull on the hub and it was like clunk clunk. I'm like, what the hell? And I looked at it, and the rod end, the jam nut was backed all the way out.
Mm.
I'm like, oh man, it was good for at least half a degree of camber, maybe 1 degree, just like loose.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, especially at speed, right? And
Yeah,
unpredictable.
yeah.
It's
Well, I
not
mean,
like
because the outside tires are the ones that are loaded. Um, and I think a combination of like the crosswind and the car kind of like getting light, then going back down, and just that bit of difference in camber probably did it.
yeah, because you were pushing it. You're at like 10 tenths, right? So
Yeah, I don't know why I was, but I was. I didn't have to.
I mean,
I
like
needed tires every
people are
time.
saying that you're always challenging yourself every time you go out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're already thinking about how to grow from this, right? And I know we were gonna talk about safety.
Oh
Looking
yeah,
at this,
absolutely.
I guess what would you have changed, or is there any thoughts about the sport in general?
Um,
I know like a lot of people after this, we were all kind of like double, second guessing ourselves about what we do, and even my wife had a talk with me like, if this happened to us, like what would come out of it, right? So we all started seriously considering, safety gear, and we all bought fire suits, right? We're taking it a little bit more seriously, especially because how often we go, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, well, so obviously, when you're um, driving your car at speed, there's risk, right? But I think honestly, if you're mature and responsible, DE is very safe, in my opinion. Uh, so like just your regular safety gear in your car for a DE car is, in my opinion, it's more than enough. You got your helmet and your even with a 3-point harness. I think you're fine. But when you start getting into like the competitive aspect, then there needs to be some more consideration in terms of safety. Um, because like you said, you're 10 tenths and you're trying to drive your car like on the knife's edge. And when you do, when things go wrong, they go wrong like in a big way.
Mm.
Um, uh, I think had I just been doing the DE thing like I did with my EJ6, I don't think any like what happened to me at Brobling would have happened ever. Because even then, I would always still not go like 100%.
Yeah, I think actually thinking about it, it's pretty rare for an incident to happen in DE,
Mm-hmm.
other than offs here and there, but usually no injuries, no car damage. I think that's when you, like you said, when you get competitive, right?
Yeah, and when you're like that knife's edge, like I said, when things go bad, they go bad in a big way. Um, so like things like fire suits, I know some guys don't wear them, they don't buy them. I mean, in my case, my car caught in fire. You know, um, if I didn't have a fire suit or if I didn't like wake up, um, I could have been a lot worse. So um,
Yeah, you suffered no burns, no
no,
scratches, no bruises, just
just a
concussions.
concussion.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that has a lot to say for the stock safety and why actually sometimes it's bad to start piecemealing safety. In my opinion, at least, I think if you are changing stuff like the seat, you need to go all the way. But if you're keeping your stock seats, don't put a harness bar and don't put harnesses. Keep the stock seat belts, right? There's a systematic approach, but you can't be halfway, right? So it in your case, look, you had the stock safety and it helped.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're gonna go buckets, then you have to run the harness, um, roll bars. Um, yeah, I don't. So like in my case, what happened with me? I mean, I don't think a roll bar would have done much. Um, I don't know that a bucket seat would help me because it was backwards, right? I went
Mm-hmm.
100 miles an hour backwards into a tree. Um, um, and it wasn't even like my head banging on something. It was my brain banging on the back of my skull. So um, obviously we always have to wear helmets. So if you have a helmet, you're good. But yeah, I guess to answer your question about safety, as you start to increase your speed or like take it to a level where you're like doing competition, then I would say the focus for safety is should be at the very front of it all. And it is. I mean, like for example, if you go wheel to wheel, you have to have a logbooked car, and all of that deals with safety.
Yeah.
Uh, and then TT is kind of tricky, right? Because you have guys who do like have dedicated TT cars, and then guys like me who are like, oh, I brought my daily driver
Mm.
to compete.
Yeah, and it's hard to have a daily with a roll cage and bucket seats and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and tail of the wagon on the
What's that?
tail of the wagon in the chat says, say talking about safety. He says they're not inexpensive, but he does suggest a Simpson Hybrid S Haas device, which works with your stock 3-point and 5 and 6-point harnesses. And I think after that, I think a lot of the guys started looking for one. So
Oh no, absolutely. I think yeah, the hybrid is definitely worth the money. It's funny because we had mentioned that too. Because like so with my last car, I had a bucket and a harness, so I had my regular head neck restraint, so I was fine. But now like even you're riding with students and stuff, they usually have.
the 3-point and the stock reclining seats.
Yeah. And so, can you see me?
Yep. You broke up for a little bit there, but you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like you're sitting in someone else's car and then you're putting your, trust in them. So I think that that Simpson hybrid is definitely worth the money.
Yeah, and you make a good point. You could use it in your car, and you could use it in the passenger seat, right?
Hmm.
Of any other person's car, whether they have 3-point or harnesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just sorry, I'm checking back the chat, and yeah, that's pretty much what they're talking about. Safety is a must, right? And Honda built a pretty good car, but so what's next for you with the car? I know, like, obviously after something like this, I would want to just chill out, right?
Oh no, absolutely not. No chilling out. I definitely want to get back on track as soon as possible. But like I said, as that car was my daily. So like right now, like between driving my girl's car and my son's car, and definitely trying to get back into something
Hmm.
and get back on track as soon as possible.
I'm gonna guess front wheel drive
I've been,
car.
uh, yeah, but I'm thinking that yeah, I was having fun. Like I feel like I wasn't done yet. But I've been conflicted. Like, do I move on or do I get another one?
Hmm.
Um, so it's kind of still up in the air. Um,
Yeah, I know
I
you
don't
had that
know.
goal of front wheel drive TT5 podium, right?
Yeah. Um, I like the HN. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but we'll see. Uh, I do have an E30. I know like a couple guys had reached out to me like, "Hey, dude, what about that E30?" I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah. Um,
Would you make the switch to rear wheel drive? I mean, you do like it.
yeah, I mean, I would. So the intention is to do that, to do both. Um, um, but I do want to get back into something quickly. So, but if I do um change platforms, then it might not be as quick. Um, because I do have everything that I pulled off the last FA5,
Hmm.
which is like 75%. Because
Oh
the
yeah,
front
okay,
of the car was the front of the car was like undamaged.
okay.
Um, so I don't know. It's kind of still up in the air.
Yeah, it's a big decision to make, right? I don't know what I would
Yeah.
do in your
I'd
shoes.
have, I mean, I'd have to get a really good deal. I know. So I'm part of another group of guys who own eighth gens, and I told them too. I was like, I would have to get a really good deal. Like the current market value, the market prices on these eighth gens is insane right now.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was like, I would have to get a good deal like I did with my first one. I couldn't see myself paying double what I paid for my first one. So
mm-hmm. Yeah. The market now is even more insane, right?
yeah. But I mean, if I can, I would consider it. If anybody's out there want to give me their FA5, let me know.
There you go, Diego. Right now, I'm glad Diego's
Exactly.
around to like keep an 8th gen around, right?
Yeah, Diego's killing it too, man.
Yeah,
Maybe
he
I can live vicariously through him.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny because he's doing the same things that you were doing. He switched from squared to staggered, and it also experienced the big change, and
hmm hmm
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's totally doing it. It's awesome. Yeah. I know he'll like ask me, "Oh, hey, what do you think about this?" Oh, I already bought it. Like, oh my god, just hit me up first.
Yeah, everything has to go through you now, right? But yeah, I guess how can we help? I guess you guys sell merch, right? S Tech and all that.
We do. So yeah, if anybody's interested in some keychains or T-shirts, head over to our Instagram page, S underscore Tech USA, or on Facebook, it's Speed Techniques USA, and
Yeah, look at these guys in these shirts. These are I really like the design of the new shirts.
yeah,
The flag on the sleeve, and I like the red background behind the text. I'm really digging it.
thank you.
Yeah, looks good. So if you guys want to get a shirt, just DM STech on Instagram. I put the name on the screen there at S_Tech_USA on Instagram, or on Facebook. You just search for STech USA. Yeah, well, thanks for sitting down with me and talking about it. I know it's like kind of it could be rough to talk about something that's so traumatic, right? But I appreciate you joining me. I think we could. Ian's been waiting. He's been eager to talk to us, so we could hop in the other room. But real quick, Felix says he has a K-Swap 4-door for you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Aztec in the chat. Click on that profile and DM him. Send him a DM if you want to buy a shirt. Yeah, I appreciate you sitting down. Let's I'll hop in the other room with Ian if you want to join me. But I know if you didn't want to stay on a little bit longer, we could just talk about you behind your back, right?
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you having me on. It's just one last thing I wanted to obviously thank all you guys that were there with me that day, and all the people who are on like social media. I had a tremendous amount of people reach out to me and check on me after the incident, and all that you guys included just kept my spirits high. And honestly, I don't I don't feel bad at all. It's just, just looking to do the next thing. And I just want to thank everybody.
Yeah, I think everyone's eager and excited for you to come back, and we're all really glad and happy that you made it relatively unscathed, right? And the car did its job; it sacrificed itself for you, and you're still here to talk to us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I appreciate sitting down. I think we're gonna hop into the other chat. I don't know if you're gonna stick around, but um, yeah, actually, if you can, I think Ian has a couple things to say, so we'll swap over.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you in the other room.
All right. Bye.
AP1.
What's up, Dell?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing good. How about you, man?
Not too bad.
Oh,
There's Mony.
all coming in.
I just want to let you know I listened to the whole thing while I worked out in the gym.
Oh, nice. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining.
I stayed for a little bit, and then I got a really cool video suggestion, so I kind of deviated. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, earlier, DJ, you said, what did you say in the chat? I was gonna read it out loud, but then it disappeared.
Oh, I just said Theo Money with like a sad crying face.
Yeah, how's Money doing? Is he okay? Or...
Oh, he's right here. He's in the chat. You can ask him yourself.
Oh, hey, what's up, dude?
What's up, man?
I didn't know that was your fucking Discord. How you doing, man?
Chill, man. How about you?
Feeling better after all that shit?
Yeah, I'm good. It was just like the initial incident. I ended up getting a concussion, but after that, it was fine.
I'm glad I
Could have
was
listened
wrong,
to it.
man.
He already talked about it.
Dude, I watched a little bit of it, and then I got sidetracked by Haggerty video. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That's a social media, right? It's always distracting.
That's a
Oh, I was
funny advertisement placement amidst the conversation.
Right. No. It was like, oh shit, it's my favorite automotive designer. I'm gonna watch this video. Oh yeah, glad you're doing good, man. That's rough.
Damn it,
Money.
Money. We're supposed to drive together again this year, go against each other.
I know, man. You know, I was like,
Now it's time. It's time to join the dark side. Buy WRX.
I don't know if Bodie's up for that.
Hey, that's what I did. I went from Honda to the Subaru. So.
Are you okay?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's actually really fun. I really enjoy my WRX. It's great. Handles way better than, well, then again, it's 10 years older than my old car, and I think they're about the same wheelbase. I used to own a Prelude, so.
Yeah, Money. There's
Summers
there's
at
six
it again.
people. There's 6 people on TT5 at Homestead next weekend.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you going?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, man.
I got the least amount of torque too.
Of course you are going.
I got the least amount of torque too. I can't wait. See how this goes.
That's the first time going back out competitively since the car. Or wait, were you down for a while, DJ? No, right?
I was from Barber last year, but
Oh, that's right.
I've been to
Dude,
CMP,
he's been killing
Roebling,
it since he's been
Sebring.
back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got a podium at Sebring. I remember now. Sorry, I guess I got you mixed up with Davo's car.
They look the same.
No.
Yeah, I got first at Sebring. I mean, there was only one other guy,
Nice.
but I was happy with my time. Not happy with where I fucked up at, but yeah, I got to close the gap on the optimal. It's too big.
Dude, I'm so happy. I think I have Andy Hollis co-driving with me before Nationals. Yes. I need to learn. Because I'm spending $2,000 to go to Autocross Nationals. It's across the country for me, so.
Oh man.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I got to drive all the way to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Money, how long have you been instructing with NASA? I have a student question. You guys would want to hear.
Like 2.5 years now.
Okay. So let me think. I think it's my 3rd student now at Sebring. It's this guy that did the Toyota experience at New Jersey Motorsports Park. He just moved here to Florida, decided to go to Sebring. First time in Florida, and he's like this aspiring YouTube guy, has a GR86, whatever. So, you know, I text him as soon as I get his phone number, and I just simple directions like, hey man, look forward to meeting you. I'm your instructor. Meet me at garage, whatever. With plenty of time before your session so we can get acquainted and talk about some things before we go out. So he doesn't show up. And then Lewis, the Florida lead instructor, goes, hey, did you meet your student? And I said, no, I don't know where he is. He said, he should be coming around any second now. I'm like, I text him. He's like, I know. He's like, I know you text him. I was like, what'd he say? He said he came and looked for you in grid. And I told him, you're not here. He's probably at the garage waiting for you. And he's like, well, I didn't know that. He's like, did he text you? And he said, well, yeah. He's like, what did he text you? He said to me at his garage. He's like, what are you doing here? So I meet him with like 6 minutes left in the session. And I'm like, hey man, like, we're not going to go out with 6 minutes left. Like, we got things to talk about. Like, I'm sorry you missed your session, but basically he was like, I missed tech this morning because he didn't know the schedule. And I don't know if it's like this with NASA everywhere, if you've heard this or whatever, but he's like, basically that he didn't know the schedule. There was nobody at tech. He didn't tech the day before. He didn't tech in the morning. So he was just kind of chicken with his head off the whole morning. And to me, that just sounds like new people things, you know, like have no idea what's going on, never been here before. I mean, I get it. Even when I go to a new track, I feel like, what the fuck, where's what, you know? But so he made a YouTube video, and the whole first 20 minutes is him straight dogging NASA. And I'm like, what the heck, dude? He was saying, like, you know, if this was my first experience, I would not want to come back. They're so unorganized, and I'm just like, I don't know how to make that better for a new person. But for me, I've driven with 4 different organizations. Like, it's kind of always been the same, you know, like the schedule is right where you register, you get emailed a schedule. There's hundreds of people around you can talk to. And I'm just like, I don't know if it's the organization or is it just the individual, but I tried to say something to him and he kind of didn't want to take any accountability. It's kind of a weird run-in with a student. Usually they're not so freaking pessimistic.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a strange scenario.
I think honestly, so you said Lewis, so that means that was NASA Florida.
Yeah.
I think NASA Florida is pretty, in terms of like the initial like tech and everything. It's actually not hard. It's pretty, in the way they do the whole, like, hey, the instructors and the students get each other's numbers. They come out with like a list. Out of the 4 regions I've driven with, only Florida does that.
Yeah.
So I don't see how.
It almost seems like he was doing it on purpose, right?
Well, maybe
Well,
not.
I don't know.
Maybe just.
I tried to tell him, I was like, hey, dude, like, it's kind of, I finally decided, I waited a few days to sit on it, because at first I was pissed off, like, why are you dogging? And then he even said something, is like, you're lucky if you get a text message from an instructor telling you where you need to go. And I'm like, you did. You got one at 7:30 in the morning, dude. Like, an hour and a half before your session started. So I don't know. I tried to tell him, like, dude, the schedule is next to where you register online in 2 different places. It's a spread Excel sheet, right? So it's a live schedule, always changing. So, you know, there's schedules printed out all over the place, all over the garages. There's a paper schedule next to where you sign in and register when you come in and get your armband. So I'm just like, I don't know how much better we can make it for you. But he's like, I'm willing to volunteer to make things better. And I'm just like, he's like, at New Jersey Motorsports Park, like, there's signs everywhere, you know, people meeting you. And I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's never been like that for me. Like, I find my instructor, usually they text me, or I find out who they are and ask registration and they tell you or something, you know?
Yeah, even the email,
I
right?
know. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know people don't read their emails, but there's a ton of coordinating instructions in the emails.
Yeah. I never had a complaint. Grid Life was the same way. Those are super detailed instructions because there's a lot of people there and a lot of sessions.
I mean, honestly though, like, from his experience, like, I would chalk it up to, like, his instructor. That's the person who failed him.
His first instructor, you mean?
No, his instructor at Civic.
I was his instructor. The heck, Mony?
We were waiting for it.
Dude, I'm like trying to follow along. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Still not used to it.
He just like is so straight with it, and I'm just like, wait a minute.
I was cracking up.
Nah, actually, so I always tell all the guys that track with me, because we like to region around. We go to we run with different regions, and I tell them, like, hey, every region is different. They're one region's not better than the next, or one's worse than the other. They're just different. So, like, when you go there, you're gonna experience something different. They don't automatically feel like, oh, this sucks. It's just different. So, like, I think in his case, he's used to the other region doing business a certain way, and he just expected it to be the same when he went to Florida. And it wasn't.
His one experience at New Jersey Motorsports Park, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
then he went and asked me, like, will you be my instructor again? And I'm like, I pulled a Mony and I was like, I'm always an advocate for getting more than one instructor so you can see how things are explained differently from other people. And I mean, I'm not saying names or anything, but dude, that was like probably the most challenging student I've had yet. I mean, it was definitely like a newborn deer learning how to walk, dude. I was like, oh my gosh, dude.
Sounds like you had Helen Keller in the driver's seat.
No, I mean, no, it just basic fundamentals. I was like, okay, you are a blank canvas. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Give us a quick example, because I'm curious what you consider as a really bad. Well, a blank canvas. I'm not going
to. A blank canvas is just new driver. Very hesitant, just like slow. But it's okay to be slow. But then even the fundamentals were like not there. Like way overslowing, braking really early, dragging brakes a lot. Cannot heel toe downshift. Can't even downshift before braking zones. Putting the clutch in mid-turn and then sometimes dropping the clutch mid-turn. I'm like, dude, that whole first session, I had to sit down and I was like, look, this is really, really important. You need to get this together. You have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, or else we're not going to make it around this track at any kind of brisk pace. And that's why you're getting passed left and right. But I was like, whoa, dude, holy shit. I was like, this is brand new. I haven't had a student usually some people know how to drive somewhat and they just trying to implement good fundamentals. But I was like, oh man, that was interesting. But GR86 is quick, by the way. Kind of makes me jealous.
Oh, dude, I know a guy who tracked a S2000 for 8-10 years, and then he got a GR86. And I was like, so what do you think? He's like, dare I say it's better than the S2000.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Ouch.
The things I'll say is the torque is definitely there. I'm like, dude, this thing gets up to speed quick.
Well, fun fact, those GR86s are the exact same speed as the outgoing WRX, so dare I say the STI too.
Yeah, I mean, where the S2000 lacks is just torque. I mean, AP2s are better with it, but I got 143 foot-pounds of torque. So, I'm Mony. You just said your car was 143 foot-pounds of torque. So, the K20, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you feel my pain. You have to.
And my
have
car is heavier than yours too.
Yeah, yours is heavier by what was it, 200 pounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good bit, dude.
We definitely feel each other's pain.
Yeah, and I drove the car on our RS4s at about that weight once upon a time. So,
I think you're gonna do phenomenal at Homestead. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because it's 3 or 4 drag strips.
Yeah, so you have to nail that exit to those turns before.
Yeah.
Those straightaways. So I'm always comparing myself to fucking Dave, dude. Every time I hit a new personal best on iRacing, he'll come in and beat me by 500s. And then he'll be like, let me try again, and it'll be 1/10. And I'm like, David, fucking stop. And then he'd be like, I can't do anymore. And then he'll find 1,000. And I'm like, Dave, oh my gosh, dude. So right now I'm 0.12 away from his personal best. My optimal's better than his. But I'm like, dude, I don't know how you freaking find that time, dude. I don't know.
That's good, man. Steel sharpens steel, dude.
It's true. It's true. It's on purpose. It's hey, I just beat your personal best. What can you do? And then I'm like, damn it, David. Now I got to get back on here, put more reps in, because obviously the time is there,
Yeah. Absolutely. That's good, man.
I wish you were still out, dude, because I feel like it'd be pretty fun. It'd be pretty competitive.
Oh, he'll be back, right?
I'll be back, man. I'll be back for some more good times.
That's
yeah.
good. Actually, quick newbie question. So I'm trying to get into TT, and I have zero clue how to use the fucking the calculator for classing. I'm curious how that would work out because I've been looking through it and it's like link after link after link, and then this page here and this list here. I'm curious, what would be the best way to find my classing?
It's just the calculator.
Where is it?
Hang on.
Yeah,
Because I find a calculator and it's like it takes me to this forum post, and that forum post takes me to a
so there's
list.
an actual website where you just plug in everything and it'll tell you. So like,
just go to Drive NASA time trial. Scroll down, and it is called. It's in a red bar and it's classification form. That's it.
yeah. So all you need to know, is your horsepower, or actually
Okay.
you either know your horsepower or your the weight of your car, and then you just fill out the form like the modifiers, and it'll be like, yeah. And
So I need a new car classification form for 2024, and it says edit my form. Do I have to put in what class I want to? Okay, yep. I'd assume I'm TT4 maybe.
Yeah. How much
I don't know.
With you in the car,
my car with me in here, I have the calculator up with everything. 3,604 pounds with me in it.
Oh my god! Shit! What horsepower?
310.
Yeah. 3,600 pounds. Good God.
I'm a big boy.
Yeah, it sounds like TT4.
Yeah, and then I suggest I started this on a plane a long time ago. I was like, man, I want to do TT, and I had like a freaking 6-hour flight, and I just started reading the rule book.
Yep.
And I just read the rule book over and over again, so like I really understood the rules. And part of the fun is trying to find a way to skirt around the rules, you know. But
yeah.
What were you gonna say, Mony?
Recommended minimum weight competition with driver is 3596. Max average horsepower, that is literally perfect.
Max average. Have you done a calculation for an average?
What do you mean by average? Hit me with it.
What is your max RPM?
Max RPM would be 7,100.
So I think, don't quote me, I think if it's over 8,000, you have to do an average of 8 data points. But if it's 7, I think it's 6. And then you take those 6 data points in your power band. Usually it's a, I don't know how to explain it. It's a sheet and it's by like 1 RPM increments and what your horsepower is at. But you'll take an average. And
so I actually know that number. I know that number. Mine is 308. So
you do? Okay.
Yes. Mine's pretty consistent. So
I think we have time for one more question for Mony. I think Ian, did you want to ask Mony something? He's chilling.
Manually, mechanically actuated.
Well, I guess if Ian's not responding, then I guess thanks Mony, thanks guys for the questions and hanging out. I think we're gonna just call it, and then yeah. I'm glad you're good, Mony, and I'm glad you're willing to go back. So yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
All right, guys.
All right, so there we have it. That's the show. We sat down with Mony, talked to S-Tech. If you saw in the chat, they're going to be at GTA Road Atlanta this weekend, and they'll have shirts there if you want to buy them. Go say hi, go hang out. I won't be able to make it because I have a wedding this weekend. But yeah, next time we'll. I think the next track day is there's one coming up at the firm, but I think it's a Friday and I might not be able to make it. So my next track day is at Barber. But yeah, if you guys see the guys over or from S-Tech over at Road Atlanta, say what's up. And I think they're going to be streaming. GTA always streams their races, so you can watch if you're not there. But I appreciate you guys sticking around and hanging out and asking Mony questions. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.